Good evening once again, and welcome to the Monday Review Show. As you know by now, if you're a regular tuner-inner, as it were, this is where we discuss all things refereeing, decisions by the referees, or the lack of decisions in some cases. We go out on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. If you'd like to make any comments, please do so. It's on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Just swipe it across there. Make a comment if you wish. Send in a question if you wish. But at all times, please be respectful of the show, and particularly my now regular guest, Keith Hackett. Very welcome again, Keith. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you.
A disturbing thing that happened the other day. You don't normally get managers of such high esteem and so well respected in the game as Roy Hodgson almost threatening to walk away from the game. This was after the defeat by Liverpool recently, and he was so frustrated about yellow cards being dished out for the slightest thing, penalties being given and then disallowed. Do you have sympathy with him?
Well, I've commented sadly on what I consider to be the falling standards of English refereeing. This is over a period of years, not just over recent months.
Sorry, Keith, can I just quote what he said? He was particularly critical of the referee, Andy Madley, who issued a total of 8 yellow cards during the match, including one to Hodgson himself. I'm sure that's probably the first time he's ever been cautioned, Roy Hodgson, I would think. Such as his respect and esteem that he's held in. While acknowledging the need to avoid excessive focus on the referees, Hodgson could not help but voice his frustration, stating, quote, "I'm absolutely sick of the handball interpretations and yellow cards for time wasting."
Yeah. Well, let me first of all comment about Andy Madley and his performance. I generally thought it was woeful. And I worry about him because he's a referee who I considered when he first got on to be of good standard and manage the games very effectively. If I said to you that he's had 10 games season to date and he has cautioned 57 players, so his average obviously is 5.7, close to 6 yellow cards per game. A year ago, the average in the Premier League was in my period of office was around about 3. Now, when you look at the performance, he had a yellow card which I thought was correct on IU of Crystal Palace, the club that Hodgson manages.
And that's the one where he prevented the quick free kick.
Well, that was yes, and no argument on that. But I think that the thing that I worry about is proactive management. Let's just take that question of him preventing a quick free kick and the actions that a referee can take. Easy to yellow card. But in reality, my view is he should be telling the player, managing the player, because part of the responsibility of the referee is to ensure that when a kick is taken, the players are 10 yards away. So I think there is every opportunity for that referee to have intervened. So I think the second one was very soft. It was a technical offence, and I thought to myself, it was an easy yellow card. I think
on the other hand, the second yellow card, if he hadn't already been booked, would you have booked him for the first time? In other words, the second time, was that a bookable offence, the second one? And therefore, if it was, 2 yellows is a red.
Well, I understand that point, and I'm clear on that. I just feel at the elite level, referees have to be more proactive and manage effectively, getting there early and avoid, if possible, the if you like, yellow cards. I mean, at the end of the day, yellow cards in law are there, but I do think a bit of proactive management could have avoided it. I think when someone as highly distinguished and not known for criticism, I've never heard Roy Hodgson criticize a referee or referee before. He's just not in his gift. He's a gent. He's long in the game. He has high levels of respect for match officials. I always found him, even when he was in the England role, and I came across him, a perfect gent. Obviously, he's got a hard side to him because he managed the England team and has managed several teams very successfully.
Yeah.
But when someone of his stature comes out and makes the comment that he's concerned about the standard of officiating, he's actually saying what I've been saying for like the last 2 or 3 years. I think we have seen a decline in standards. I think this is because, in my opinion, the referees have tried to be too accommodating. I think that I'm ignoring the point of VAR at the moment because I think that I want referees to referee football matches. I want them to be tough. I want them to do the job. And I think that those people on the side that have been long in the game can actually see what's going off. And in some instances, even though the age of the referee is mature, the performances lack maturity. They're in fact immature. And I think part of that is, as I've said before on this show, I think we've had a long period of referees at the PGMOL being managed by Mike Riley. And now with Howard Webb coming in, our expectations are, after a year, that we might have beginning to see some improvement. I'm seeing some shoots of improvement by way of fitness and movement. Certainly, I think they're more energy going in, which is how Howard Webb used to referee. But in the quality of decision-making, they're struggling. I don't think that if you take the basic law of a careless challenge, which of course is a free kick, reckless, which is of course a yellow card, and an excessive force challenge that endangers the safety of an opponent. And I think I'm seeing what should be red cards, yellow cards being produced. And then I'm thinking the VAR is going to come in on this, and we're not seeing the VAR come in. I mean, if we take that challenge in the Spurs game over the weekend, Romero came in with 2 feet. He was off the ground. He landed on his opponent. He didn't have to, but he did. And it's beyond me how anybody could not see that as a red card. So then I watched Ref Watch today on Sky with Dermot Gallagher, somebody who I respect. He's a wonderful guy. But when this particular incident came on, I was absolutely gobsmacked that he sort of didn't come out firmly that this was a red card offence. And it was interesting because the players, Stephen Warnock and Sue Smith, Stephen Warnock, long in the tooth as a player, made the statement he was gobsmacked with Dermot's view on it. This was a red card challenge. So I think this is where, at the elite level, we judge referees' performances by them getting the big decisions right.
Yeah, I read your comment, Keith, only 3 hours ago on Facebook. You said that Dermot Gallagher has done the game a disservice today and confused young referees in the game. Thankfully, Stephen Warnock and Sue Smith should be complimented for highlighting that the Romero tackle should have been a red card. Now, Dermot, in lots of the comments that you may have seen them to that article that you wrote, effectively was being accused of being a politician and sitting on the fence and not really calling it what it is. Why is he doing that, though?
Well, I have my views. I don't know them fully. I worry about the fact that the point that I was trying to make was that this is a red card offence. And Dermot is a former FIFA international referee. He's there to comment and clarify these challenges in the media, probably the highest profile media, Sky, which goes around the world. And hesitating about a challenge that is clearly a red card is worrying, because what message, one, does it send to players? Two, grassroots referees. Because grassroots referees, when faced with this type of challenge, will issue a red card. And if they do, they come under great pressure, because they point at the referee in the Premier League and say, well, he didn't send this player off.
Yeah.
And the bar is set in challengers' terms outside the law. So there is a great responsibility. Look, there are decisions in the game that are subjective. This wasn't subjective. This was a player who launched himself out of control, excessive force. This is a player who recently came back from a suspension for a red card offence.
Yeah, there were lots of comments, which I'm not, because some of them are a little bit offensive, so I'm not going to read them out. But there were a lot of people saying the biggest problem, and you and I have discussed this in the past, is the inconsistencies of the referees. And then it would appear that Dermot Gallagher is trying to justify the unjustifiable. That the guy, it should have been a red card. It was clear. If he wasn't sure, why didn't he issue the red card and then go and look at the monitor, and he would see that he was correct? But instead, he took the easy approach, because to go to the monitor, I suppose, he would be admitting there was a clear and obvious error, and he didn't want to admit that. But at the end of the day, a player got away with a very bad tackle and stayed on the field. And, I mean, these are all hypotheticals, I know, but he could have gone on and done the same to somebody else and broken their leg.
Well, I think at the moment, I'm not just blaming this particular situation, but I've seen this season a growing number of these types of challenges. Some receiving a red card, some not. So there is clearly inconsistency in this area of what is a reckless and what is a challenge which endangers the safety of an opponent. I want to say quite clearly that we used to have the referees together. I spoke to Mark Halsey early in the day about the subject, and he said that he remembered when we used to go into the meetings and I would come up with probably 10 challenges that were yellow, 10 challenges that were red, and then some careless challenges, throw them into the pot and randomly select the video clip, play it, and then discuss it with the referees. And I said the objective of that meeting was to ensure that every one of us recognized that if faced with a similar challenge, we would sanction it accordingly. All 10, all of the referees, not just one here, there, and everywhere. I think this is an easy one for Howard to deal with. Look, I don't want to underpin or actually put all the onus on the referees. The reality is, this is a professional environment, the Premier League, which throws up massive challenges for referees, and that's why we went professional. Because at the moment, we've got players growing in number of those that are trying to get their opponents sent off by feigning injury, by rolling in agony, and if we take this Romero challenge, and I could have gone on and expanded the discussion, because off the ball, there was a challenge where two players put their heads together, locked horns, and one actually, in my opinion, fulfilled the criteria for another red card for a headbutt.
That's right, because he leaned forward, yeah.
He leaned forward, and therefore, players are expected to play with their feet, and it's football, not for these sort of confrontations.
And just to wind up on that particular incident, that particular game, the referee completely missed that.
Yes, he did. And I think that was I think that was amazing. Look, there are sometimes I talk about refereeing. I think I may have touched on it before about referees holding their gaze. We have to look up at times and anticipate what might be the next move so that we can cover a break or a quick pass. I understand all that. But in reality, when there's a challenge and players are coming together, you referees have to hold your gaze on that one, because you've got to sort that one. That one can be left, and you can blow the whistle and prevent.
The other question, though, is, Keith, what about the other three officials? The two assistants and the fourth official. Where were they looking? Did neither of them see that coming together? They were like two bloody mountain goats, and nobody saw that. And yet somebody should have alerted the referee, because it was caught on camera. So he could have checked VAR for that, or could he not?
Well, I mean, I find it incredible that VAR decided that this wasn't a red card offence. Now I get back to the other objective, and this is, here is Peter Banks, referee, acting as VAR in this game. The previous day, he'd been, I think, at Anfield refereeing that match. So it comes back to the old sort of scenario, a lack of concentration, which is easy. If, you've had a game, it's gone well, you're probably in comfort zone, you've still got the baggage from that game. And I keep repeating it, but sadly, we will continue to get these types of errors. Now, the one question I ask is, are the FA in a position now to upgrade this yellow card? They've done this in the past, but now they're operating with VAR, and there's two referees. Does that mean that the FA are going to say, well, it's been covered and they've seen it and acted upon it, and therefore we cannot re-referee the situation? But I'm sure that's the stance they would take. But in reality, if we look at the game, the laws of the game are there for one reason: to protect the players from each other.
Yeah.
Mad, isn't it?
But then, just to throw another iron in the fire, as it were, what does that do then with Law 5 that says the referee's decision is final, and that once the game is restarted, you cannot go back on that? Now, that's a bit of a rhetorical question, because I know the game was restarted, but VAR then can bring it all back. So that they have to take that clause out of Law 5 if they're going to use VAR, because it's contradictory.
Yes, it is. And of course, we have to recognize that the laws of the game are for all games, and therefore that's why it's retained in the laws of the game and not being taken out. I just, ultimately at the end of the day, we really have to be better than this in terms of these challenges, which are a danger to the opponent, that are putting at risk the careers. And I do think that if you have a guy who's got a reputation, and if referees are not doing the homework and keeping an eye on that type of individual, then they're not doing the job.
Right. Just a couple of questions that came in, Keith. One was from John, and John asked, how far back can you call for VAR? So an incident happens and maybe the VAR guy hasn't picked it up entirely at that time, but the play goes on. How far could the game go on before being called back?
Well, there is no time limit being set in terms of the criteria. I think that what you have to say is it reasonable? Because in reality, you could have a penalty kick that's not being seen by the referee and acted upon. VAR sees it. The game breaks, goes upfield, and they score in the opposite goal. And at that time, the VAR comes in and says there's a penalty at this end. So the other team has scored, you wipe that one out, and you come back in the penalty. So these are the scenarios. You know what? Well, you know more about psychology than I do, Errol. But in reality, one of the things that I was taught very early in my career, and that is the value of visualization. And here is a scenario where the person who's penned that question, if he's a current referee, he should play scenarios in his own mind, because these are the types of things that can catch you out.
Indeed.
And this is why I always refer back to people to say, look, just carry the referee's chart, the laws of the game in the car with you, or in your bag, and decide, just have a read. You know, what is the law in relation to various aspects? You know, we talked earlier, didn't we, about a drop ball and the active part of a referee getting the wall away. The law says very clearly on a drop ball that the opposition have to be 4.5 meters away. So if they're not, then that's when the referee has to be proactive. And it's that aspect of law that we need to understand fully.
And that's why IU was booked for not moving away that time.
Correct. And then you look at the comment that, again, I'm not preempting, which we've touched on times many, and that is having 5 colours on the field of play. The 2 competing teams, the 2 competing goalkeepers, and the referee. And this weekend, we saw a referee in black. We saw a goalkeeper in black. Correct. Now, you know, I've had the comments when I've made it, oh, you've been too pedantic, you know, and all that goes on. The reality is that when you're an assistant referee and you're looking across the field of play, and it's not the summer period that gives you the problems, it can be this time of year when the sun starts to go low and you're 30 minutes into the game, and distinguishing colours become more and more difficult. And therefore you need them to be really distinguished. And you don't want the goalkeeper having come out, the referee has penetrated into a penalty area, and you get a wrong decision.
Why are the referees allowing that though, Keith? I mean, surely when do they not, there must be a pre-match meeting. And that's one thing to congratulate the PSL, Premier Soccer League in South Africa. It is so well run. And I've been to a few of their pre-match team meetings where the 2 teams are in, the security's there, the ambulance are there, the police are there. And each team then has to provide the colours of the player's shirt, colored jersey, and the goalkeeper's jersey to make sure that there's no clash of colours. And based on that, and the referees are not present, no, but the match commissioner is. Then he goes and he says, this team is wearing blah, 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 and that the goalkeeper's that, and the other team is this, and the goalkeeper's that. So now you'll have to change and come in with a different colour. But I mean, how is this not picked up? I know they're not allowed into the dressing room. How is it not picked up in the tunnel?
Well, the problem is that for some unknown reason, the Premier League are the guys responsible for actually issuing and approving the colours that are worn. Now,
really,
yes, that's a pre-match arrangement. Now, for me, for me. So, and the referee takes the brunt. But I believe that we go back to law 5 and we go back to law, and a league or a competition does not have the power to actually say this is what's going to be worn. This is, if you like, a mistake by the PGMOL in allowing this. But then you look at the PGMOL and the board of directors of the PGMOL that someone like Howard Webb reports to is made up of the Premier League, the Football League, and the FA. So you see how administrators are influencing what is happening, and the referee's taking the brunt of the blame.
But why? I mean, for what reason? Why would somebody want to wear black? I mean, even some teams are wearing black now. Yeah. And you get the referee in his yellow socks and black shorts and a yellow top. At least it's a change. But why? But then, of course, you could get the other goalkeeper in yellow.
The reality is this. The reality and background is that the sponsors love a black shirt because of the clarity of their advertising on the sleeve and the chest of the shirt.
Well, that's fine. That's okay. But then the referee should have a different color.
Well, well, the referee's kitted out with about 4 or 5 different colored shirts.
Yeah. So there you go.
He's got those in his bag. So that referee could easily have said, "We're going to change." And that, look, I used to ask referees to ensure they got 3 colours in the bags when I was in charge. It's a slippage, isn't it?
And it's only in the Premier League, though, Keith. You don't get that in Europe midweek European matches.
No.
National matches.
No.
Only in the Premier League.
Well, the UEFA are very clear that UEFA, and I've been privy. I've been the referee observer at games in Europe, and there is that 10 o'clock meeting. That I think it might have changed time now, where there's a very clear inspection of colours. There's also a very clear inspection of the logos that are on the shirts and on the gloves and various other places. And you can see the match delegate, the UEFA representative, who is responsible for all this, he's even provided with a camera. So that camera he takes photographs, and if he's got a problem, that is immediately sent to UEFA HQ.
Goodness, I don't know why they want to do it. I'm not going to hold you over a barrel for this, but just to let you know, there was an incident during the week in Turkey, I think it was, where the goalkeeper got the possession of the ball. His defender wanted to give him a high five because it was a great save, clapped his hand, and he touched the ball. The ball fell out of the keeper's hand, and the referee gave a penalty.
Well, there you go. There's law 18, isn't it? 18, isn't there? Common sense. But then, the old thing that the referee has to judge is, was the action of the player deliberate? Was he deliberately handling the ball? And look, I think sometimes we've just got to use a bit of common sense.
Oh, there should have been a bit of common sense there.
Yeah, absolutely.
The issue of players with their socks almost down around their ankles. Jack Grealish now is a big culprit in this particular area.
I think this has not helped. I just want to read the law because it says shin guards. These must be made of a suitable material to provide reasonable protection and covered by the socks. Now, if we go back, we had a situation where there was a very clear memoranda sent round to all of us saying, look, socks must be up to below the knee and the shin pad protecting the majority of the shin. And what we've seen is what as it happens, someone decides, oh, we'll make a tweak to the laws of the game and forget certain aspects of it, and clubs and players take advantage.
Of course,
You know, they look at lightweight kits, and therefore this comes into this category. You can have these are mini shin guards, and at the moment they're regarded as acceptable in the laws of the game.
And once the sock covers them, they're complying with the law. So they don't have to be up around the middle of the shin, and the socks don't have to. Well, they should be pulled up to the knee, but that's situation.
Well, I think they forgot that the time that they asked for the socks to be put up to below the knee was at almost the same time when the laws of the game insisted that when blood appeared on the shirt, it had to be replaced. And this was all about the health interests of the players in relation to issues where they didn't want players catching these dreadful diseases.
Yeah. Keith, as always, thank you very much again.
Pleasure.
We can do it all again next week.
Absolutely.
The following Monday, of course, will be Christmas Day. So you'll be so stuffed with turkey and whatnot, you won't be. So we'll give that one a miss, Christmas Day. It's the following Monday, 2 weeks from today. And then if you're available, then we'll come back on New Year's Day. Because
sure.
so much will have happened with games over the week, over that period of time.
Busy
But
period.
until next week, Keith, thank you very much again for joining me. And thank you out there for also tuning in. Look forward to seeing you all again this time next week, 8 o'clock. Until then, bye-bye. Thank you.
All right.